Good afternoon, hello, my name is Daniel, this is the TriathlonDan YouTube channel, and it's been a little while since I've made you stare at a Training Peaks screen because, in honesty, it's been a little while since I have. However, I've recently done a race and it didn't quite go to plan in that I performed below where I wanted to perform, but I thought if I perform really well, I'd be making this video, so it's only right that I make this video when I don't think I performed very well. However, after having reflected for a couple of weeks, my physical performance, I believe I should be really happy with, but it's just the output, as in like the actual speed, I shouldn't be. So it's easier if I just get into the data and explain to you what my thoughts and feelings are about that. Now, please do feel free to let me know your thoughts and comments down below. I like sharing this sort of thing in the hope that people can relate to it, but yeah, let's get stuck in. So I did the Outlaw Aqua Bike at Holcombe Hall. This is a swim bike, so a 1.2 mile swim and a 56 mile bike ride. This is the swim. Now, you see I've called it Outlaw Swim - Garbage. I often put a little bit of feedback in the titles rather than in the description, just so when I flick back across Training Peaks I can get a rough idea of how I felt, and that is my honest thoughts. That was garbage. Last year I swam 33 minutes at this event and this year I swam 40. I'm not in as good shape as I was this time last year, so I was expecting to swim slower, but not this much slower. This is actually slower than my first ever middle distance triathlon, but we are where we are. Now, if I'm to have a look at the distance, I got 1932 meters, so it was only 32 meters long. There's not quite 7 minutes of length in there. And if I look to break down the swim, now it's difficult in the swim because of GPS inaccuracies, because of my wrist heart rate isn't always the best. It's really hard to gauge any actual like useful information from it other than my total average pace, which is fairly accurate, especially when you're going from one point to another point in a straight line. Like, I know that the pace I was swimming there that's fair for the whole swim. I didn't really fade. I felt quite tired towards the end, but I didn't slow down that much. A little bit maybe, but not a huge amount. So that was all I really got from the swim. I need to be fitter, I need to swim better, so that was that. Onto the bike. Now, I had two files for the bike, annoyingly. So I record my triathlons on my watch, but I also have a bike computer. And for some reason on my watch, my power meter was dropping out. It wasn't a huge amount. The averages are about 15 watts different, but when I analysed the file, they were different. But I had heart rate on this and not on the bike computer. So I've gone for this file in the end. I deleted the other one because it is a consistent power file, but I don't have heart rate on it. But I do know there that my average heart rate was 147, dropouts on watch file. Now, this is the bit that I'm actually mixed feelings about. I'm actually really happy with in terms of like how I felt and how I physically performed in terms of power, but in terms of like the speed that I rode at, which is the only real important metric in these sorts of things, I wasn't very happy with that at all. So I'm just hiding a few things on here. Right, so this is the file. This is 55.7 miles. The headline scores were normalized 309 watts and average 287. Average cadence of 78, which is quite low. I'm not sure how this is set up in terms of like zeros. I think it is set up to take out zero, so I just ride with quite a low cadence, bit of a grinder. Speed average though, 22.9 miles an hour. I averaged 24.5 last year, and that's the only real important thing, and that was disappointing. But I've got a few different places on here where I wanted to look at. So looking at the first sort of third of this ride, you can see it's quite spiky. There's quite a lot of surges there, and that's just because I'm feeling quite fresh, feeling good. I'm kicking on out of corners, I'm kicking on up a lot of sharp hills. It is the way that you ride faster, because I know that my event finishes at the end of this bike. I'm not having to conserve for the run. I'd normally be not doing those things, not doing them as much, because you're saving your legs for the run, right? But I didn't need to do that on this, so I just sort of pressed on, and then the first half, which is all this section, is into a headwind, and then the second third was like into a tailwind, then there's a bit of cross tail. So what am I happy about? Well, from the gun, I got kicking on pretty hard. Surge on up the hills, and for the first 7.5 minutes, I've normalized 302 watts and averaged 297. Really happy with that. Sometimes when I come out of transition, I'm like gassed, and it's hard to get going. And it takes a few minutes to sort of get your heart rate down. And I was breathing hard, but I actually was really happy with that. And that's an area where I thought, right, I'm going to make some time up on this section out of Holcombe Hall, where it's quite a long uphill. I thought I'm going to make some time up. Now, I didn't make time up versus last year. Speaking for the whole ride, I was just slower everywhere, both climbing and on the flats and everywhere. But in terms of what I put in, I was happy with that. It's then rolling and a bit twisty. There's not really much you can do. I try and like recover a bit through that section, if anything. Still doing 292 watts on that bit though. I think if I just highlight this bit, it's probably a bit lower. Yes, okay, 292 still. So I'm still surging on and riding fairly hard. This bit is quite twisty and technical, so it's hard to get the power down, but again, the normalized is quite high and the average is still 300, just because when you're twisting and turning and up and down like I'm kicking on. This is the first real climb out of Burnham Market. Like, there's just like a bit of a long, draggy climb. It's not super steep, but it is definitely a hill. And this was like, I'm trying to find out what power have I got. I did the gravel sprint the day before, so I wasn't completely fresh, but I was feeling quite good. And so you're looking at the numbers, I'm thinking, oh, this feels sustainable to hold. So nearly 8 minutes there, normalized 330, average 328 at 80 RPM. So that was a good little effort. And then when it flattens off and then rises up again, I was recovering on the flat section. So this bit here, I was finding that my heart rate was coming down quite a lot, but I was still holding 300 watts. And then to be able to then like nudge on a little bit again up to 310, 311 in fact, for another 4 minutes up the second half of that hill, that was then showing me that, you know, I'm feeling like quite good because I'm able to recover. It's still quite a hard intensity. Bit of recovery there, 3 minutes at 229 on the downhill. Obviously I do need to recover, and then I'm surging on here up this hill. And again, because I've got 2 or 3 minutes behind me of recovery, and then the heart rate's down, you can kick on again. And this little hill here, 5 minutes at about 354 normalized and 337 average, and that continues then for this little roll-in section here. And at this point I was thinking, well, I'm nearly, what am I then, an hour in, and I planned for this ride to be, in honesty, I thought I'd ride about 210, 215. I rode 217 last year, so I thought, oh, I'll be around there for more power for the same speed, but we're just so much slower. This section here is quite draggy, so I still needed to keep on the gas, but it wasn't like I was flat out. So again, still sitting at 300 watts. I think that's a good amount of power to hold a decent speed. Average there 24.4 miles an hour, so a bit faster. This hill here, I ended up riding, I came across a group of riders and I passed the group, and then I came to a climb and one rider came back past me. And when somebody comes back past you in the age group field, like, it's your responsibility to drop back, and he was climbing faster than me, so I didn't really have to ease off at all. But then as the gap got out to like 12 meters, I then surged on a little bit, because I thought, if this guy's riding strong, I don't want to have to put in a big effort on the flat to close him, or if he's going to ride faster than me, because I wasn't quite sure if I passed him or if he'd actually just caught me up, I wanted to go with him. You can draft at 12 meters, so I surged on a little bit just to get back to that 12 meter point. So you can see there for nearly 5 minutes, normalized 375, average 370, and then over the top, we got a bit hold up by a car, and then I just continued pushing, and then I ended up doing, for the next 7 minutes, still again nearly 300 watts, and ended up going back past that same rider, so that was really good. The next bit, another 5 minutes at 300 watts, again just rolling, and then when we turn left here, this is into a cross headwind, so all of that section is a cross headwind. Normalized 278, average 250, faded a bit here. The surface is a bit rougher than earlier on in the course. I should have ran lower tire pressures. I was really struggling holding the TT position, and if I'm honest, because I flicked through my averages at that point, I knew that I hadn't ridden that fast. It demoralized me a little bit, so I didn't quite have that same impetus. But then we came to the last hill, and I thought, right, I'm still gonna get everything out of myself here, so I'm gonna kick on. So on this last little climb, again, 346 watts for 5.5 minutes. And that's a nice little descent to the finish, where I did 250 for a lot of speed for that. So in a nutshell, 309 watts normalized, 287 average for 22.9 miles an hour isn't a good swap. Like, it is a lot of effort for not a huge amount of speed. I do need to work on this, but what I'm taking from this is, and what I'm telling myself is, you've got the fitness, or you've got some fitness, you've got some numbers there. What I need to work on is everything else. It's the time trial position, it's the body composition, it's the cornering faster, it's where to put the power out, and those sorts of things. So I was a bit feeling, mixed feelings about this ride initially, hence why I didn't make a video about it. But on reflection, I think that is my best performance for a long time, but also my worst performance for a long time. And I'm just trying to focus on the positives so that I can motivate me on to the next event, is the plan. Anyway, I hope you got something from that. If you've got any feedback or thoughts or anything, let me know down below. If you did the event, let me know how you got on this bike ride. People were saying it's quite a slow day for the wind, and I think it was, but that's not my excuse, because I'd have been a bit slower anyway. So yeah, thanks for watching. Hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock.